If you're watching this on YouTube, I just want to let you know that if you'd prefer to listen to this episode as a podcast, you can click the link down in the description, which will take you to our Spotify, where we will be uploading all of our longer review type videos as podcasts. And if you'd rather keep watching the longer videos here on the channel, that is fine too, because in addition to being on the Spotify, they will continue to be posted on this YouTube channel.
What is up, my Plocasters? It's your Plo Bros here, Paul and Evan, coming back at you with another in-depth Bad Batch review. This time we got Season 1, Episode 12, Rescue on Ryloth. If you haven't already, be sure to check out our reaction to the episode, which we did live, to see kind of our first impressions. And then stick around for now as we dive into our episode.
Oh yeah. So yeah, basically in this one we're gonna be, taking a little deeper dive into what happened in the episode. A lot more than we do in the initial videos. This episode, as the title implied, puts us back on Ryloth. So I kind of wanted to start there with the Syndulla family, who is native to Ryloth. We got to see more of Hera this time. And I don't know how other people feel, but I kind of liked her more in this episode. We're seeing more of her sort of piloting skills. We're seeing her kind of develop. She's still like novice, I guess. Like she was like, as soon as they took off, she was bumping into the other shuttles and like crashing all over the place. But she has skill, and she is learning. I really thought that her and Omega their interactions were fun. We said in the last episode that we were hoping to see more of that, because the one scene they had together on the moon on the Bad Batch's shuttle was really fun, and I'm glad we got more of that, because now they're like actual friends. They're like really close. But yeah, they were flying the shuttle together, and shooting down the control panel for the turrets or whatever it was. Their goodbye where they're like hugging, and it was very wholesome moment, and I hope they found a way to keep in touch, I guess. But how did you feel about Hera and continuing her story from the last episode?
I also liked her a little bit better in this episode. I'm glad they gave her and Omega just so much freedom to like think on their feet, kind of switch the plan up on the fly. We've seen that with Omega a little bit already, kind of in earlier episodes, but now seeing her and her friend Hera, we know what Hera eventually turns out to be, and to see Hera and Omega work so well, I think foreshadows kind of what Omega might become, somewhere kind of very much the same boat as Hera.
Yeah.
But yeah, seeing more of their dynamic that we only saw briefly the episode prior was definitely awesome and very much welcome.
Yeah. From her, we have her parents, Cham and Eleni, or I think they said Eleni. They said it in the episode, and I still don't know exactly how to pronounce it. I believe it's Eleni. Um, but we got a little bit more of them. I noticed, like from this, they're continuing the idea that Cham is very, like it takes a lot for him to trust you, and then if you just one little slip up, and you're cut off. Howzer was there trying to, which we'll talk about Howzer a lot more later on, but just for as of right now, Howzer was trying to tell them that he wants to save Hera, but just the fact that Howzer chose the Empire over Cham, who we can infer the two of them are good friends, because just the years that these clones have been on Ryloth. Just that little bit of betrayal, Cham feels like he can't trust Howzer anymore, and he refuses to tell him anything. We see this in the Clone Wars too, like when him and Mace first meet up, each side is a little, I guess tentative, like they don't necessarily trust each other fully, but we see from later on, once eventually the Republic, and the clones come in and they help save Ryloth, Cham is, fully supporting them up to the point of the Empire even, where he put his full support forth for the Empire and their occupation of Ryloth. But I like seeing characters like that, and it's good when they bring a character back, and they keep it consistent with what other shows and other media have done with the character. Because it's one thing to just have a character show up and be like, their own thing, and then but then they appear in something else and it's completely different and it's nothing like them. They're just there for,
Yeah.
the fact that they're there. But I like when they keep the characters consistent, the details and the little mannerisms that they have make sense with the characters. And I'm glad that's what we got for both episodes, I'd say, for Cham. Which you will actually see more of later when we watch Rebels.
Yeah, but I am glad because he is very much a side character. But just a little bit we know about him, a little bit I know even less than you. But they keep him consistent. They paint him out to be this not stubborn, but very true to his morals and true to himself. And the way they make him out so like that, and he's consistent. If you get on his bad side, he's gonna hold you there. If you win his respect, he'll respect you, he'll love you. But to just see more of that with how Howzer, turning his back on him. How quickly he's like, nope, like you did me wrong. We're not friends anymore. I think that's remedied by the end of it a little bit, but it's cool to see how someone like Cham, who we hardly know, how much thought they put behind his character and who he is to keep him true to like his character. Because like, but behind the scenes is like that's a dude like making his way in the universe. Like, it's gonna make sense that he stays the same throughout, and it's cool that the writers know that as well.
Yeah, and his personality, his character, really really helps Hera because, like a little moment in here when Cham and everyone's let out of the prison, Cham's first thing he says is, "Where's Hera? Is she safe?" And then it cuts to Hera actively, fighting to save them rather than being in peril, and needing to be saved like Cham would assume that she would be because he feels that she shouldn't be out there fighting like that. And then it cuts immediately from him being concerned about her safety because he thinks that she can't fight, to her fighting and being one of the reasons that they're escaping in the first place. So I think having him, remain consistent, really helps Hera's character growth because, there are scenes with the two of them in Rebels that, reflect this sort of not rivalry. I was gonna say rivalry, but I feel like that's probably the wrong word. But like
Hmm.
this sort of headbutting that the two have. There was another detail last episode that we talked about where once everybody gets rescued, Hera runs to her mother first. You can see they're probably closer together in terms of relationships and all that. Um, but seeing the family dynamic in there, really really makes these characters feel real because then there's Uncle Gobi. A lot of people have people that aren't even related that you call uncle or like your
Yep.
cousins or something. But I just them keeping the characters consistent with other media, and continuing to support the characteristics of them that we've already known, really just kind of makes them feel like real people. But yeah, anything else on our or just Ryloth in general, I guess, or the Syndullas before we hop on to the next thing.
I think it was cool to just see their arc kind of close, for the most part, with just a quick 2 episode arc. I think it needed to be 2 episodes, but I think they handled it well. Just the Bad Batch there, and just seeing more of Hera and her family, Cham, Syndullas. But yeah, a lot of people I've heard like maybe it didn't need to be 2 episodes, but I think it works well with what it is.
Yeah, yeah. Based on the setup in the last episode, you say whatever you want about that one. But we did like that one. But this I feel like rounded out the story pretty well.
Hmm.
Um, moving on to characters that really did not matter last episode that much. We have the Bad Batch themselves, the namesake for the show. Um, I thought they shined a lot in this episode. This I feel like is one of the strongest episodes, so far. I think, but a lot of them have been really strong. But I really like this one. In terms of our main cast of characters, we still obviously have the issues with development for some of the other members, like Echo and Tech. But we've talked about that like countless times, so
Yeah,
I don't want
we
to
don't
keep
need
going
to.
on that. Other people agree, like we know that it's there. But for what we got, I really liked in terms of development with Hunter, and Omega, as we've also said a lot. Um,
Yep.
but I kind of have a list here of like different details. But first off, we have just a cool detail I noticed that isn't really related to the characters, but when they arrive on Ryloth and Hera's like, my father is Cham Syndulla. They knew Cham by name, or at least Tech did. He recognized that name immediately. He was like, oh, the Freedom Fighter. So I just think it's cool that stories or like details about missions and stuff that happened on Ryloth, because that's most likely where the batch knows of him from, is from Ryloth a couple years ago in the Clone Wars. I just think it's cool that it makes sense that these guys would know who that is, because the stories would spread the tale, like not even really tales, just details about battles that have happened. I thought it was cool that it would make sense for them to recognize him. I feel like if they just had no clue who he was, it'd be kind of like,
Yeah.
oh, do you really like know what side you're on or like what's happening in the war? But just reports of that is cool. Um, Hunter, we have Hunter the main source of like development, I guess, for this one. Um, Couple cool details about him. That cool scene where he like detects the probe droid and he like jumps and lands on top of it and like smashes it.
Yep.
That was really cool. I like them showing each member's abilities and like different talents that make them different and make them like not just regular clones. So that was really cool. Uh, he was the main person deciding on whether or not the team was going to go actually help Hera. I think like Hera and him were talking back and forth about how Hunter kept saying it's too much of a risk, we can't do this, blah blah blah. Which I actually liked. I liked how eventually he got swayed and the way he was thinking about things, and I like how he sort of changed his mind. I do think that the rest of the team should have had input on whether or not they got involved in this conflict. Hunter, now he is the leader, understandably, and it would be his choice ultimately, but that doesn't mean the other members can't contribute. I feel like we could have had a couple, some of them maybe being like, oh yeah, we need to help them. This is, we should be doing this. I agree. And then a couple others are maybe like, no, you're right. We got to get out of here. We can't, risk too much. But I feel like everybody else pitching in would have made the conflict a little bit better. I don't know if you picked up on that at all, but we had Hunter basically, and then Omega and Hera were the three debating on what the team should do. But I feel like we could have had a stronger sort of story if everybody else kind of pitched in, because they are a team.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It seems like another one of those moments where there's so much more room for cool development to happen. I do like that Omega was the one to eventually sway Hunter over. I think she still could have been the one to sway him over if we had like Tech and Echo weigh in and stuff. And I think that would have made it more fleshed out. But Omega kind of being like, hey, like I think she said, "I'll do the same for you," or I forget her exact words, but it was along the lines of that.
Yeah,
And that being the thing to win Hunter over was really cool to me because he's kind of shedding off. Well, we've seen it before, but he's shedding off his rough exterior as a hardened like clone. Like like
soldier.
this guy's a killer. Like soldier. Like this is a bad dude. And then his little sister goes, I do the same for you," and he's like, "Oh man, how could I say how could you say no to that?" So it was really cool to see that kind of heartwarming moment. I like
Yeah,
that moment a lot.
yeah. She even uses the soldier card on him. Actually, he's like, we can't just help any random people that we find. And she's like, well, you're soldiers, right? Isn't that what you're supposed to do? And he's like, no, dang it.
Yep.
um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, just seeing them. I guess I wasn't even really bonding at that exact moment, but just seeing them bond in general and seeing them like bounce off each other and him realizing things, um, when she's able to get through to him like that is really interesting. I do the same for you, and you can tell that she would, and she's genuine about that because she
Oh
feels
yeah.
like this is her family now. And when she's talking to Hera, she doesn't she sides with Hera, but she doesn't put down Hunter. I mean, they're all my brothers. We got to trust them. They'll come. I agree with you, but we just got to talk to them a little bit, and they'll come around. I thought it was cool that she didn't like full turn on them. She was like, come on, you're better than that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
and also the little clips about, or not clips, I guess, little voice lines about them being her brothers technically, and Hera's like, oh wow, so really makes, because you kind of forget about that sometimes, that they're brother and sister.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, and when somebody brings it up, you're like, oh yeah, that's right. Um, but yeah, speaking of brothers, there was a cool moment right at the end of the
Ah.
episode where
Ah.
Howzer's talking about he's talking to everybody. He didn't want to come with them. He didn't want to leave because he wanted to go try to convince his men that this is wrong and that he wanted to try to at least get through to them and say stand up for them or something. He doesn't want to give up on them. Basically, he said they're good men. I don't want to leave. I'm not just going to abandon them. I have to do this. And then there's a little clip. There's a little scene where, as everybody's leaving, Hunter turns to the side and he looks at Howzer, and you can see him thinking. And then finally he gets out of there. Um, I don't know if it's like been said exactly. I don't know what other people thinking, but I think this is Hunter kind of feeling guilty for kind of abandoning Crosshair. You have Crosshair who's kind of like the rest of Hauser's squad. They're with the Empire. They're kind of brainwashed, and you have Howzer who is not running away, not giving up, trying to save his men. And then you have Hunter, who's like, "Well, we didn't do that at all. I didn't do that. We just left him, and we abandoned him." But I thought that was a really interesting little look and little
Mm.
moment there. I don't know if you also know what I'm talking about.
Mm. No, I'll be honest. I missed that one. Good find. But I know I do want to talk about Hauser though. I want to dive right into that if you're okay with that. But I think that's awesome that Hauser, this clone we've just met, I think he was technically in the Ryloth arc from Clone Wars, but we didn't know him like we know him now. But to see again this brand new clone defy Order 66, go against the Empire is really cool to me because I feel like that sets the stage for other clones to do this. I think it's important that we haven't met him before because if it was someone like Wolf or someone else that we know, we were like, okay, of course, like Wolf would do that, or of course Rex would
Right.
defy it. Like we know him, like we know his personality. But to see another commander who we don't know yet being able to withstand it, or even just go after it, or go against it after it's happened, is really cool. Because I think this might be setting up a clone rebellion. Because we also
Ah,
see some of the regs throw down their arms after being swayed by Hauser, uh, those are no names at all. We don't even know who they are. And I think this little scene, while in and of itself is really cool, a mini clone rebellion, if you will. I think that sets the stage for, yeah, there's clones we don't even know about who might be doing this. Like the
mhm.
captains, maybe the captains are better at it because it's just their nature. If they're leaders, they care more about their brothers, maybe a little bit more, that it helps them sway them or knock out of Order 66. I don't really know how the programming works.
Yeah.
But to see a brand, not, I guess, technically brand new clone be the one to do it, besides, the Bad Batch and Rex, I really like.
Yeah.
Because I think that more than anything speaks to a clone rebellion on Kamino, like it was in the old Battlefronts, or maybe something else altogether. Who knows? We might see it in the Bad Batch. But just the fact that they're doing this, I really
Yeah.
like. But I want to see what you think about that.
No, yeah, yeah. I agree. There's a lot of variables or signs that are playing into this. Because we still don't know the full story. We don't know why exactly Hauser is so
Yeah.
detached from the militaristic, robotic, ways that we've seen the clones being for the most part. This episode alone, we had more signs of him hesitating orders, and we've seen conflict in him when he's being told to do something. But I feel like there's a lot of factors in terms of why this is happening. Um, Hauser himself, you can tell just from his he's a much older clone. His hair, he's got gray in his hair. He's got a lot of
Oh yeah.
gray.
Battle
Yeah,
scars.
his
Yep.
armor is very, very beat up. A lot of clones have beat up armor, but his more so. It's like really, got some scars on it. I kind of noticed another detail when I was watching it again, like on a bigger TV. He's kind of got like crow's feet wrinkles in his eyes, and like he's just like a little bit more wrinkled, and like you can tell that he's older and gruffer, or at least he's experienced enough to make him look like that. So
Yeah.
his age is probably a big factor in why he was so much more aware of what's going on. Another thing is they're most they're probably near any oh my god, we have to kill it now. We have, they're going to be, angry and
Yep.
killing Jedi. But if there's not one on Ryloth or planets where there isn't one, I assume it'd just be, business as usual, except, Imperial protocols are now in place. You have to do this, your orders do this. Kind of personalities are slipping away. But it's a lot less hostile and less angry, I guess. So that could be a factor. Also, we know that eventually clones are phased out and they're decommissioned for human recruits, which is what Project Warmantle is, which is 2 episodes from now. So keep that in mind. But I guess it seems like the effects of the chip are wearing off. I feel like,
Yeah.
like it's still there. Like they'll still follow orders, but they have a little bit more free will. If you showed this to me, if this was like a fresh like day of Order 66, like fresh Order 66 clones would not be doing that. Even if Howzer was exactly as he was, if he makes the same speech to like a day one Order 66 has just happened, a group of clones like that, I very much doubt that they would even stop to think about it at all. So I feel like the effects are wearing off, and someone like Howzer, who's already more unique, and he's a captain, he's probably got more personality, he's got a lot more years in the military. That's why he was first to sort of start to think like this. But I feel like if this was like immediately following Order 66, none of those clones would have thought about it that much.
Yeah.
And some of them even just surrendered and they didn't want to fight.
Look at Clone Wars, the 501st. Immediate Rex tries to talk Jesse down, and all the 501st doesn't work at all. So I think
Yeah.
you're exactly right on that.
Yeah. But I guess we'll find out more answers as it goes, hopefully.
Mhm.
But I think that's what I think. I think it's just kind of wearing off a little bit, and that's just probably another reason the Empire wants to get rid of the clones, is because they can't control them like that forever. Eventually, the technology will catch up with their age, I guess, or they'll just they're eventually just going to get phased out through the passage of time. I don't know, but just moving on for more things about Howzer, not necessarily in order. There was a cool little moment where Howzer's talking to Cham while they're in their prison cell, and he's like asking them to trust him to go find Hera. And Cham says he's like, I won't make that mistake again to him or
Yeah.
something. And then we get the clone theme from the Clone Wars. Just really one of my favorite tracks in Star Wars is that militaristic Clone Wars theme. And then it ends, it doesn't end on the same like da da da. It just kind of goes like it's an ominous sort of kind of sad moment once he stops to realize that Cham's not going to trust him. But like it kind of turns sad at the end. I thought that was a really cool detail. I like when they throw tracks in there like that. One of my favorite parts of the Mandalorian episode with Ahsoka is at the end when they start, they have the Mandalorian music, but then they infuse Ahsoka's theme into it as she's watching, Mando leave, or she's watching the crest take off, and her theme from Clone Wars is playing in the orchestra with the Mandalorian music. I get chills every time I watch that.
Oh
So
yeah. Yep.
just them adding in little musical notes like that, and that's a theme that'll remind viewers of like the clones as we knew them in the Clone Wars when they were their own people, and they were unique and they were allies. So playing that theme around Howzer, just enforces the fact that he's a good guy. He's basically the clones we've seen in the Clone Wars, which is why I don't think we hear it a lot with the Imperial clones, because it doesn't mean the same thing to them.
Yeah.
But
I think you called that, right? You caught that
yeah,
during our reaction. Yeah, I remember.
yeah.
Yep.
But a lot of people thought that Howzer was going to die in this episode. We both did. As soon as he stepped out of the doors, as soon as he made his
no,
speech,
no.
I thought when he finished the speech, because I feel like Crosshair would have let him finish the speech just to see what happens, just like a sort of last seeing your plan fail like that, and then Crosshair would have just shot him. That's what I thought was going to happen. A lot of people also seem to think that that was going to happen. Um, I'm glad it didn't, though. I just had a thought. Not saying this would have been necessarily better or worse, but would it have made for a more powerful sort of moment in terms of the themes and the storytelling if that actually did happen? We have this clone who, and again, I'm not saying I want this to happen. I'm glad with how it went. I'm glad he's alive.
Yeah.
But imagine, this buildup of this character, who's fighting back against. Well, not, I guess he's fighting back against the Empire, but slowly developing these feelings that, hey, this is not what I signed up for. This isn't right. He goes to his brothers, his family, who he trusts and who he cares about, to try to convince them to, this is wrong. And then you have somebody else who used to be like him and Crosshair, who's now fully turned to the I guess I was gonna say dark side, which is kind of
Kinda.
yeah, kind of. But just that would be such a powerful moment and such a show of like I don't know if it would be like metaphorical for the evil of the Empire, like this clone who we're following, we're rooting for. He's fighting the Empire. Yeah, he's gonna break everybody out, just for him to get shot down by the Empire right before he can even do anything. Like he makes his speech, his brothers are all staring at him, and the last thing he sees is that nobody else would join him and that the
Mm.
Empire's won. Now, again, I'm not saying I would have preferred that, but I feel like that would have been a really powerful sort of show of the Empire, which is another reason, like that was kind of subconsciously rolling around in my head, and another reason I thought he was going to die right there.
Yeah, no, I think I agree, but I am glad you brought that up though. I was gonna talk about him, like Crosshair not killing him for a different reason. And I'm interested what you think about this. I think maybe not more impactful than your version. I was gonna say it's impactful for Crosshair to not shoot him, because I think this speaks to how much he wants to hunt down the Bad Batch. Because we saw in what was it, episode 8, he straight up says, "Kill Omega first, kill the girl first." Like it is personal between him and the Bad Batch, and I think this shows that even more. Because put Hunter in the place of Howzer, I think he's getting one right through the chest, or maybe even the dome. I think
Mm,
Crosshair
mm,
is a little bit more apathetic towards the regular clones than he is towards the Bad Batch, which,
okay,
although it might be worse, like he might be more evil, I think it does still speak to the fact that he still cares about the Bad Batch. Because maybe
right.
it's the wrong way, he wants to hurt them more, but they still mean something to him. And I think the fact, because I specifically, it's the thing about Omega where he says, "Kill the girl first." Like he was ready to kill a little girl
Just because.
just to prove the point because she's part of the Bad Batch. And here we see him lay off. He kind of does the right thing. You're supposed to take like the prisoners in that case. They'll probably reprimand them, try to see how and why he didn't like obey the orders, which is cool. I think that kind of makes sense for Crosshair, but I just think that it kind of speaks to that like, and then later we see him. He gets the orders that he can track down the Bad Batch like on his own. He kind of like almost smirks. But I think like this speaks like no Crosshair, like he's not just like all Empire. He also wants to get the Bad Batch. It's kind of personal for him.
Yeah, I
And that was I
yeah,
was
I
gonna
agree
bring
with
that
that.
up too. So I'm glad. Like I think it is important that Howzer survived. I think at face value they're probably just gonna bring him back later. So it, like mechanically they had to make him survive, but like thematically I think it has other values too.
Yeah, yeah. Obviously, there's probably, um, reasons that he didn't shoot them because they were his orders. Their orders were
Yeah.
to kidnap, or not, well, kidnap. Well, it might as well be, but they were to arrest any supporters of Cham, and bring them in, most likely for questioning. Um, but even if he wanted to kill him, he probably wouldn't, because chances are he would realize that Howzer worked with the Bad Batch. So interrogating him and could possibly give him a lead or something like that. So you don't want to get rid of an asset like that you could use to your advantage,
Yep.
to find the Bad Batch, which is what I figured. That's why he didn't shoot him, because he's probably a good source of intel if they can crack him. Um, but yeah, there's a lot going on inside his head, which I think is kind of new. I feel like right at the beginning when Crosshair was just like when he had just turned, and they enhanced this chip or whatever, he was a lot like the other soldiers. He was robotic.
Yeah.
Everything he did like seemed to just be because it was the orders and that was the purpose. Even when he killed one of his own men, you think, oh wow, that's really just evil, which it is. But I feel like he was just doing that because that person was getting in the way of my orders. But now it seems like he's kind of reverting to his old self, but with the added hatred
Yeah,
for the
like
bad
his
guy.
an evil self. He's less robotic, but he's still
Yeah,
evil.
which also goes with the fact that the effects of the chip are wearing off. You have
Yeah,
clones reverting back to their old personalities, but obviously Crosshair wouldn't go back to being Crosshair we know and love because they messed around in his head. So if the effects of his chip are wearing off, more of his personality, or not his personality, but the personality of this version of Crosshair is coming out. Like you said, he was like when he got the go ahead to hunt down the Bad Batch, he he went through a lot of emotions in that little camera shot we got of him. He looked like there was some shots where like he was kind of saddish, but then he was like I don't know, angry, and then he did a little smirk at the end, like he was happy, like he
yeah,
was finally I'm going to hunt them down and they'll pay for what they did to me, or they'll just pay. Um, which I feel like is not something he would have done before. He would have been like permission to hunt them down, granted, and he would have just been okay, cool, and he just would have went to
that's
do it.
it. Yep, very cold, very robotic. Yep.
Yeah, but he's got like and in the shots where he's looking around and like, oh, they're in Sector 5 and he looks over to the mountains, he's like got hate like you can see the hatred on his face and it's just written all over his face of how angry he is, which I feel like is not something he would have felt right away. So there's even more evidence that the chips are kind of wearing off. And in Crosshair's case, because of all the, changes they did to him, like all the modifications or whatever he had going on, but regardless of that, he's showing emotions, which is not something that he would have probably done right at the beginning, when they messed around in his head. Like it would be more like robotic, like we're talking about, like the droids, like the other clones. But he had emotions, which was just very, I guess, off-putting in terms of the fact that that's not how he's supposed to act. But it was it was very cool for the story's sake, anyway.
Yeah, I think they're definitely building him up. At like when he first turned, like like if you watch the videos, I was always like, no, we want him back. Like get Crosshair back. I hope he snaps out of it. But now I feel like no, like even if he does quote unquote snap out of it, he's still gonna be evil. And I think what they're building up is like a huge big conflict between him and the Bad Batch, and like specifically maybe him and Hunter, to where it's almost gonna be like an Anakin Obi-Wan situation where, Crosshair, you're my brother, I loved you. But I think it's really cool seeing, like you said, like all those emotions rushing through him in just a short little scene. And just seeing like he's becoming like a really cool villain for me. And we're getting to the end of the series or season rather. Hopefully not series, who knows? But I
I believe
think
there is
that
a season 2 coming, I think.
okay. Well, all right, cool, good. So that end of the season. But yeah, I think that he's not coming back, at least not yet. And I think they're building up a huge climactic, I guess battle or just conflict,
Yeah.
where maybe he's overtaken by his hatred and his emotion. Where normally he's a cold, good sharpshooter, no, his emotions get the better of him or something.
Yeah.
But I think it's like we keep seeing the little bits, and I think we're gonna see a lot, like almost an explosion of emotion real soon.
Yeah. I mean, this is a Dave Filoni show. Filoni and his finales, man.
Oh yeah,
When he does a finale, he does it big. And it's not even just one episode; it's a couple episodes. So as we're coming to the last 4 here, I feel like each one of these episodes is going to be like a big episode, in its
Yeah.
own sort of way. Hey, who knows? It could be like a 4-parter kind of thing. Um, which would be crazy. To have
that'd be
to,
amazing.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
getting chills already.
Yeah, but I mean, I definitely think Filoni's gonna have a big finale, whether it's 1 episode or 4. So I think
Yeah.
we're in for a surprise here. Um, but yeah, anything else before we move on to just other details about the episode and our other thoughts and anything?
Um, no, I think I did want to. I brought up the the Howzer death, which is or
Yeah,
non-death, which is I wanted to
non-death.
bring that. But let's move right along.
Yeah.
How about that?
The first thing that I had, which has been something I saw from the last couple episodes, is Admiral Rampart. He's becoming like a really sort of menacing villain. It's a lot different from what we see from a lot of other Imperial officers for the most part. Um, in some, a lot, especially in Rebels, and some of the OT, Imperial officers are just seen as like a bunch of doofuses that like don't really know what they're doing, and Vader
Yeah.
just kills them whenever they screw up. But Rampart has proven, other than the fact that, the Bad Batch escaped with Cham and all that, has proven to be pretty effective. That whole plot of his with the attempted assassination of Orn Free-Taa, that was a clever, little move that he did. Just the way he talks, he's very calm. He doesn't get like super angry and yelly. Um, he kind of reminds me of Thrawn, but not nearly as menacing as Thrawn,
As
but just like a
awesome.
Thrawn light.
Yeah.
Because in the end of the episode he did kind of fail because Cham and all them escaped along with the Bad Batch, but he was kind of calm about it. He was talking to Crosshair calmly about them. He realized his mistake because earlier Crosshair had suggested that they send way more men to deal with the Bad Batch, and he was like, "Nah, it's fine." Um, but at the end of the episode, he's like, "No, yeah, you're right. We got to get these guys." And he did say a line there about not about killing them, but it'd be great. I forget the exact line, but it would be like if they were fighting for us instead of against us, or something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Which shows that the gears are already going in his head, and he's already got an idea of what if they could just make four more crosshairs with different skill sets, they'd be unstoppable.
Yeah.
Um, but how about you? What do you think about Rampart so
Yeah.
far?
Honestly, I didn't think he was gonna be kind of the villain that he was. We saw him, I think, like episode 1 or 2. I know 2 for sure with the chain codes, but I thought he was just gonna be the overarching. Yeah, he's the higher up that like Crosshair will report to or whatever. But they're kind of like, even though it's just a little bit here and there, they're fleshing him out to be another like you said, Thrawn, Director Krennic too, and those are the kind of or Moff talk, not Moff talking, Gideon.
Grand Moff
Yeah,
Tarkin
yeah,
also.
yeah, but him as well. I did want to shout out Gideon though.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But those are the types of Imperial higher ups that I really like. Like you said, I think it's like the really smart, conniving Imperial higher ups, or the very dumb, use like they get beat easily Imperial higher ups. And it seems like there's no in between. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's cool that we see him last episode. I spoke on it a little bit as well, but we're seeing him. He's smart, he's quick, he's calculating. I think it's really cool that he admitted his mistakes too. I don't think we see a lot of that with the Empire. But yeah, I think he might make an interesting. I think he might be like a long run villain, where he might not have a direct conflict or a direct storyline this season, maybe next season, maybe even later down the line. But just seeing that what he's capable of, and like I guess little bits of his character here and there are actually awesome. It's something I didn't think we were going to see at all.
Yeah.
So, like I'm super pleased to have it.
Yeah, I thought he was gonna be mostly like a side, filler, just guy, Imperial #1.
Yeah.
But
Yep. Me
he
too.
actually has been turned out to be a pretty interesting character. Every time he's on screen, he like is one of the best parts of the scene. Like the way he talks, the way he speaks, even if he doesn't, always win or do something great, just his presence is enough. And he's pretty cool. And he's just kind of pulling the strings. He's been the one behind Crosshair and his team, sort of sending them out to do this or whatever. Because Tarkin kind of passed that down to him, and now he's heading up this sort of Crosshair. Every time we see Crosshair, he's reporting to Rampart. They're talking with each other. He's giving Crosshair instructions. So I feel like he'll be a part of the story continuing on,
Yeah.
or hopefully. Um, but anyways, in this episode had probably is one of the best of the season in terms of action. I really like the action scenes here. It wasn't just like people just shooting at each other. There was actual. They split up the teams a lot. They had Omega and Hera, in the shuttle destroying the power source for the 5 turrets after Chopper, couldn't take it down manually. And then you have Tech absolutely whipping it in this pilot, in his pilot chair with the shuttle,
Yeah.
while Wrecker's in the back shooting down the cannons. That was awesome. And then you have Hunter and Echo scaling the side of the bridge and like hand to hand, beating up the guys on the ground to run in and save the prisoners, all happening at the same time. Explosions everywhere, awesome animation. I just thought this was one of the best episodes in terms of action so far.
I liked how, I don't want to say subdued, but almost nonchalant, how they went about it. Like tech, like literally Tokyo drifting a whole shuttle. That is awesome. That could have been the centerpiece of the whole episode. But while they do showcase it, they kind of just like, yeah, it's like, no, that's what they're capable of. This isn't something super special for the Bad Batch.
Yeah,
Same thing with Echo and Hunter. Like all these cool things that they're doing, they kind of like they do showcase it, it's there, but it's not like huge, which I think is really cool. Because maybe we do get a huge scene. Maybe we do see them at their peak, at their limits. And if this is like kind of just the, yeah, they heck can drift a shuttle around and Wrecker can shoot out like all those, what was it, defenses or turrets?
yeah,
It was turrets. Yeah, that's no big deal. That's just a routine plan for him.
yeah.
I'm like really excited to see if they take that to another level. But yeah, like I think like this one almost rivals I think episode 8, the Crosshair episode on the Venator. That's another one. I really like the action on that one. But yeah,
Yeah.
this one was super cool.
Yeah,
Super
episode
cool.
8 had like a larger scale of the battle, and this one was
Yeah.
sort of a smaller
Yeah.
setting in comparison,
Yep.
which I
But
thought was
that's what I
really
mean.
cool.
It's like a
Yeah, yeah,
small setting, but it's still awesome.
yeah,
And the fact that you could have that is like to me is very impressive almost.
yeah. I really like a show or like an episode where you have everybody's working together to make the plan work, and they're not all just in one group. Yeah, yeah, they had
Yeah.
it all split up. You had Chopper going on to do his thing. You had Hera and Omega just
We're
in the
only now
shuttle.
just mentioning Chopper. Oh man.
No, it's okay. He didn't do it.
But
He was
he was pretty good too, dude. He
Yeah,
had his
his
own
little
little
scene where
mission.
he's like sneaking around the other astromechs, that was kind of cool. But like I said, you have him doing his thing,
Yep.
Omega Hera in the piloting that shuttle. Then you had Wrecker and Tech, and then you had Echo and Hunter. Just having the small groups, each working to make the plan come together, is another really really cool part of the action. Um, but yeah, that was cool. I don't know. Once we rewatch them all, I'll have to, because it could be my favorite action set piece in the show. But hopefully it'll be upstaged by these last couple episodes.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
hope. But we talked about it a little bit earlier. Howzer is alive still, presumably on Ryloth with the rest of the clone prisoners. Are we returning to Ryloth? I assume, based on the fact that Crosshair is now going to be hunting down the Bad Batch, that they will not be back on Ryloth. That's the last place they'd want to go, other than like Coruscant or Kamino. They're like
Yeah.
public enemy number one on Ryloth right now.
Yeah.
Um, so Hauser's still there. I don't know, like, is it going to be a B plot in an episode, or are we going to have to wait until next season? If I think there is one, so would we have to wait till next season for his story? Maybe there's an episode like he's been in prison for months, and him and his followers are sick of it, and they try to break out, something like that. But I am having a hard time figuring out if we'll see him again this season.
Yeah. No, I was definitely conflicted in the same way. Um, I like honestly, I don't think we will. The one way I could see them doing it is sort of like how they did it in The Mandalorian with Mayfeld and kind of that how like at the big finale like they needed to have their whole ensemble crew. I could see like I don't know Omega. Oh well, Hera's not even there either. I could see them getting word to him, and he's like, "Oh, I gotta break free," and like maybe there is a clone rebellion, and maybe he joins or something for like the finale. But that could be stretching it too much for like something like the Bad Batch. So I could easily see like not seeing him at all, or like maybe he comes along with a bunch of other people. I don't think we'll have another Ryloth specific or even Howzer specific kind of plot, in my
Right.
opinion.
Yeah, for the most part, he served his purpose in his arc, I guess, but it's obviously not finished. But he served his purpose in the story of the Bad Batch, which was, getting Cham and all them off of Ryloth. but his own story is still, we still got to find out what happens. I had a theory, maybe since the Batch are on the run, they can't go there themselves. Maybe they call up a buddy. Maybe they call up Rex, be like, "Yo, there's this guy. He's like super chill. He's on our side. Him and a bunch of clones got captured on Ryloth. If you maybe want to hop over there, help us out, save him, that'd be dope."
Yeah.
But
Yep.
maybe that's how he gets out. That would be a cool adventure, seeing the colliding of the two shows. Howzer being a new character in this show, and Rex being a classic character from Clone Wars. The two of them meeting up, both being
Yeah.
old clones. Probably Howzer's probably also like a Generation One clone or whatever it was. But that could be pretty cool. But who knows? I feel like we'll definitely see him again. It's just a matter of will it be this season or next season. But yeah. Another cool detail, they're using probe droids now, which is just more and more
Yes.
Imperial details. I'm really glad that they're subtly, leaning into that, because they could have very easily just kept everything the same as it was in the Republic and just say it's the Empire. But the fact that they're actively, we can see the transition into the Empire now that the probe droids are around, slowly transitioning the Republic vehicles into Imperial vehicles, and then probably eventually scrapping those to make their own. But just more, we say it every time, but they always have something new about new details
True.
about
Yep.
the fact that the Empire is here, and eventually, they're gonna have all the Imperial stuff that we know from the OT.
Yeah.
But
I
yeah,
I do have to say, quick shout out. One of the best noises in all of Star Wars, the Imperial probe droid. Yes. Oh my goodness. And we heard it in episode 2. But yeah, like you said it all. I don't want to. That's all I gotta say. I just have to shout that out because top like 5
oh
Star
yeah,
Wars noises in
yeah,
my book.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Um, you were talking earlier about sort of an uprising amongst the clones. I
Yes.
was wondering if they would take that a little bit further. There's a story in Legends
Mm.
about the Kamino clone uprising, where Kamino was making their own clones of Jango Fett that they were going to use as their own army to fight against the Empire. I think it was a book or some other media, but it's now Legends. But basically, what happens is Kamino is making their own clones to fight the Empire, and then the Empire finds out, and they hire Boba Fett along with some 501st Imperial clones to go in and shut it down. I'm wondering if that is our link to Boba Fett. I feel like it's very possible at this point that Boba Fett is featured in this show, just because of the fact that his own show is coming up very soon down the
Yeah.
line. Um, but that would be awesome. That's a story that, since I've heard about it, I've wanted to see in some capacity, which is now, I'm pretty sure it's Legends anyway.
Yeah.
But just the fact that Boba coming, who is a clone, going in to shut down more of his own kind, is really awesome. I believe it's 501st clones as stormtroopers, and Boba comes in, leads them into Kamino, and I think they win. They actually kill all of
Yeah.
the Kamino clones that were, uprising against the Empire. But I thought maybe that would be a cool story if we could get that. We know Filoni and crew are fans of taking Legends stuff and reintroducing it into the canon for fans that really like that stuff. But I want to know your thoughts on that.
That's I said it a little bit. That is exactly what I'm talking about. Battlefront 2 from 2005. They had a mission of that. I don't.
Yep.
Is that
Yep.
it? Because I don't want to lock myself
I
in.
think it's that, and there might have been a
There might be
I
a
don't know.
comic or a book. Yeah.
There's a lot of Legend stuff.
So, but
That's
for
great.
sure that was a mission, and it was the
Yes.
501st as stormtroopers.
Yes.
Awesome like plot, awesome thing. It would be super cool to see them explore that. Especially see, I think it'd be cool. Maybe it's on Kamino, maybe it's not, because I kind of want the Bad Batch involved. Since it is their show, number one. Number
Yeah.
two is because seeing them lead that, seeing them fight against Boba, maybe Cad Bane, maybe Fennec, maybe all the bounty hunters and Crosshair. Like, oh, I think that would be super cool.
Yeah.
The setting to me isn't too big a deal. I think on Kamino would be the coolest.
Oh,
But
yes.
my problem, I don't know, like why would the Bad Batch go back would be my only thing. But I think, I guess we know, Dave Filoni loves bringing back little bits of Legends back into canon, and this is one that, like you said, like I said, seeing Howzer rebel, I think it's very possible we see, if not this storyline, something very very similar.
Yeah, definitely. We already had a lot of hints to the Boba Fett Cad Bane arc. Filoni probably is a big part of the fact that we can now assume that that happened in canon because it's such
Yeah.
we didn't get to see it. But in the episode, Cad Bane now has a patch on his head right where he supposedly got shot by Boba. He's got the same armor and gear that he was wearing in that arc. He's got the same ship that he was using in that arc too. Um, and it doesn't even have to be exactly the same as the Kamino rebellion because with stuff as legends, the benefit of it being legends is that when you bring it into canon you can change some details to sort of fit your story, so we could have a version of that with the Bad Batch included like you were saying.
Yeah. Yep.
But that would be awesome, just thinking the bounty hunters and Crosshair standing on a platform staring off against the Bad Batch in the pouring
Oh
rain
man.
with the wind gusting, and in the background you have Imperial clones and Kamino clones blasting each other and killing each other. They're brothers and they're just demolishing each other in the background while we have this
Oh.
fight between our heroes and our villains. That would just be really awesome, especially on Kamino. That would mean a lot thematically, and probably if they're ever to return Kamino, that would have big story implications. So I was just like daydreaming about that for 20 minutes, and I had to say something about it here.
Yeah, just know if that does happen, the second half of that episode reaction will be silent because me and Evan both will break our microphones. I guarantee it. We'll be shouting our heads off.
Oh,
That would be
yeah,
some of the best Star Wars media straight up ever.
yeah.
Um, oh, you just got me so excited.
Yeah, we're kind of setting ourselves up for disappointment
Yeah, yeah,
when this does
that's
not happen
very
at all.
speculative. Yes, very
Yeah.
speculative.
So
But
that's
yeah,
just, random wishes, whatever. Uh,
yeah.
transitioning to the most off-topic thing
Oh,
ever.
it's here.
After the very first scene in the prison with Cham, when Rampart and I think Howzer walk back into their main room, one of the clones guarding the door was missing his left shoulder pad. I noticed that when I was watching the episode, and I felt like I had to point it out because I'm proud that I saw it.
Well, I mean, yes, because I definitely did not.
There's the one clone guarding the door into the prison area
No
when
shoulder pad?
Howzer and Rampart walk back into their control room, whatever. He did not have a left shoulder pad. It was just not
Uh-huh.
there. Um, but yeah, I just wanted to say that because I just remembered it.
That
uh,
is
yeah,
crazy. Okay,
but
noted.
yeah,
That's
that is the best point that we have. Yeah,
but
forget everything
just
else. That was the whole point of this video.
just so you know, that's how much we pay attention to these episodes. We will find
Uh,
the missing shoulder pads.
yeah. All right. That's about all I have if we want to move into our review and or I guess more predictions. This episode to me anyways, also, just like last one, felt like a Clone Wars episode, but in a very different way. Clone Wars has a wide range of types of episodes. You have
Yeah.
like Clone Wars episodes that are, heavy filler that are still enjoyable but are just kind of there. And just the vibe they give off is like you can tell it's a Clone Wars episode. That was kind of last episode. While a great episode in and of itself, within the show, it felt, a little Clone Warsy, kind of just, oh yeah, that was a good Clone Wars episode. This one I feel like had a little bit more of a Clone Wars vibe, but like I don't know, something in one of the more popular arcs, like maybe the bounty hunter, you know, Obi-Wan arc, or
Yeah.
something like maybe one of the earlier Umbara episodes. Like it felt Clone Wars like, but I feel like a little bit better. I think after watching it and talking about it, this is probably going to be in my top 5 episodes of the season.
Yeah, I think it's like the pacing and the time limit and just I agree. I agree. It's very Clone Wars, but it's very good.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
to me, even taking out what we discussed last episode about how it didn't really fit, I think when we put like just up against each other, like in a vacuum, I still pick this episode.
yeah,
I just think like take away the story or whatever it means. This is a really good episode. This would be one of the top Clone Wars episodes, and that's a good thing. Like
yeah,
that's not like pennies and change. Like that means something. So it's cool to see. It's cool
yeah,
to see him get like back into the swing of things almost. And it has me excited. We can go into little predictions, but it has me excited for the rest of
yeah.
the season.
I don't think that this episode is better than like top Clone Wars episodes, but it would be definitely
It's up
very
there.
very good quality in terms of the
Yeah.
episode. These two episodes as its own arc, I feel like also would fit very well in Clone Wars. Just Ryloth Bad Batch type of arc, put together. These two episodes would be very interesting in the Clone Wars, especially with setup. Obviously, it doesn't make sense because Rebels came out after Clone Wars, so the setup for
Yeah.
Hera doesn't make sense. I know that, but just saying, hypothetically, plop this in Clone Wars, and it feels like a really solid Clone Wars arc. Our issue with last episode just laid in fact that it was just didn't fit right in the Bad Batch as a show.
Yeah.
But I feel like this wrapped it up very nicely. I'm not as mad, or not. I guess not mad, but I don't feel as much that I did last episode. I still agree with our points about last episode. But it's a little bit. I don't mind it as much after this one because this one, like we predicted a little bit, kind of sort of redeemed it a bit for me.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up as well. I know last episode I said this episode would have to be like a super banger. I don't think it was a super banger, but
It
I
was a regular
still,
banger. It was a regular
yeah,
banger.
I think it does pick up some of the pieces and some of the disappointment I had last episode. I feel they both go hand in hand very well. It's a very nice tie up of last episode, which makes me retroactively respect last episode a little bit more.
Yeah.
So yeah.
This episode, like I said, probably is going to be top 5-ish of the season. It was very good, very fun too.
Yeah, very fun.
But so I guess predictions. We already kind of predicted a little bit. I guess we're just going to see. I hope we see a bit of Crosshair and his team hunting down the Bad Batch because now that they're on the run, sort of chase kind of episode would be interesting. I'm putting my prediction here now. Even as it's very outlandish, I feel like we might see Boba Fett leading 501st clones to a rebellion on Kamino. I'm just
Oh,
saying it
I would
because
love
if
that.
it happens, I want to have it on record
Yep.
that we discussed it.
So.
Even though it's
Yep.
very unlikely, I'm just plopping that in here. But yeah, next episode probably gonna be like a chase sort of thing, or at least Crosshair trying to hunt down the Bad Batch. I feel like Crosshair will be in it.
Yeah.
Or it could
Hmm.
be the one after because it like I forgot to say this, but the next episode is called Infested, which implies a sort of filler kind of creature episode, which I'm kind of hoping we don't get.
I did forget
But
about
that
that.
is the type of title that you would see in an episode about like bugs or lizards or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like where there's like a creature thing that the heroes have to fight.
Moon
So
Dragon. Yeah.
yeah, we'll see.
Um. Okay. That kind of. My prediction has nothing to do with Infested because I did forget about that. But I'll say it anyway. I thought it was gonna be very Crosshair centric. But I don't know how that would relate to Infested. So I don't know. It honestly could go anywhere. I'm hoping it's something. If it's not Crosshair centric, it's Bad Batch centric. It's something vital. I don't think I would like an episode on Moon Dragons again, especially not episode 13.
That yeah,
um,
yeah,
but I know we talked about before. It doesn't necessarily mean that. That's what it points to, but it could also be like, I don't know, a clone infestation on Kamino or something, like a
yeah.
rebellion, like how rebellions
Maybe
like
the
they could
one we
be. So
predicted with Boba
yeah,
Fett.
yeah, we so there is. I'm not completely like that is a little disappointing to be infested, but who knows? They might make
Yeah,
it a
I mean,
super metaphor
this
for
is
something.
way preemptive. Like, it's just the title of the episode.
Yeah,
We have no clue what's coming, but
yeah.
just based on that, and they have been pretty literal with the this episode is literally called "Rescue
Rescue
on
on
Ryloth,"
Ryloth.
so
So
they
yeah,
rescue people on Ryloth.
and they
So,
do a rescue.
uh,
Yeah. So we'll see.
yeah,
We'll see.
but yeah, that's all I got. I really good episode, probably my top 5 for the season. Uh, how about you wrapping up here?
Yeah, just
Final
I
words.
guess yeah. Quick little words on the episode. I really like it. I like everything with Hera and her family. I liked everything Bad Batch. Especially liked Howzer, Crosshair. So I guess this episode to me more than anything puts me in the right like state of mind for the rest of the season. I will admit I was bummed last episode, but I think this one picks me right back up, and I think I'm kind of excited again, especially with our talks about Kamino and
Yeah,
that big showdown.
yeah.
But yeah. I mean, I can never be disappointed to see an episode of Star Wars, but I think now I'm like excited and hyped, just as much as I was in the start.
Yeah. Final thing here, the episode after Infested, I believe, is called War Mantle, which we have heard many times. I believe first in Rogue One and then in The Mandalorian. I think, or Rebel, I don't remember. But point is, we've heard that before, and
Yes.
that is basically the Empire transitioning from clones to conscripted soldiers, which we know at this point we can see is inevitable based on the fact that clones are aging, they're on their way out. So that I feel like we're leading up to like a 4 or 3-ish episode kind of end of the story here. Or I think we're coming in for a landing, hopefully.
Oh, you said a thing.
Yeah, I mean, if we have this sort of episode, this 2-episode arc with all the setup, and then we got filler, and then we got the big ending, I'm like,
Yeah.
come on, you had the momentum going. But
Yeah.
we
Yep.
will see. Um, yeah,
Indeed.
that's it for us. Thank you for listening and/or watching. Make sure to check back in a couple days when the next episode is out. We'll be posting a review the day of, and at the very latest, the day after, which I doubt. But yeah, stick around for that. Thanks for listening to this. Check out the other reviews, the other reactions. There's a whole bunch of Bad Batch stuff on the channel, and
Oh yeah.
will be continuing to come out until Bad Batch ends. But yeah, thanks for watching, and we will talk to you again very soon. Goodbye.
Buenos noches.
Just
I
buenos.
had my goodbye prepared this time.
I did not.